At a table, two black-haired boys look at a book. A padded brace wraps around the younger boy's chest. Next to him, the older boy sings.
Herald flies over the sea. Herald flies over the ocean. Oh, look at what Herald can see.
The younger boy talks to the camera.
Take a bow.
Okay.
The older boy stands and bows to the camera.
Thank you.
My name is Dan Habib. My wife Betsy and I have two boys, Isaiah and Samuel. When I became a photojournalist 20 years ago, I did a story on one of the first elementary schools in New Hampshire to try inclusion, or mainstreaming as it was called at the time. At Beaver Meadow Elementary, kids with disabilities began to join the same classrooms as kids without disabilities. Now my son goes to Beaver Meadow. He has a disability, and I think about inclusion every day.
When Samuel was a baby and we first started realizing that he might have a disability, I remember being really afraid.
Words read Betsy McNamara, Samuel's mom.
All the things you imagine for your child were things I was afraid about. How could he run around on the playground and play kickball when he couldn't run? How could he yak on the phone with his teenage friends when he has trouble talking? How could he get a full education and go to college when he can't hold a pencil? I just couldn't imagine beyond that, and I was very afraid for him and for us.
Now a toddler, Samuel slowly rolls across the floor.
I am Isaiah, Samuel's brother. He was born when I was about 3 years old. I love to watch the Patriots games together.
Isaiah wraps his arms around Samuel's head and hugs him. Then he kisses him on the cheek.
You didn't get that, did you? You didn't get that. We love to play tackle.
No, actually, I got you.
There's sunlight streaming from his smile.
Interviews with kids.
Samuel likes spaceships. His favorite color is yellow. Does he like sunflowers? I like sunflowers.
Those are Samuel's classmates, his friends. He's going to grow up with these kids, and they'll know him as Samuel, not the kid in the wheelchair.
Barbara O'Brien, Samuel's teacher.
Inclusion is the best way for every child to learn, not just the child who comes in with a speech issue or the child who uses a wheelchair. It's every single child has a multiple way of learning, and we need to discover those ways.
In a group of his classmates, Samuel presses a button on his keyboard.
I made this film to honestly share our story as we try to figure out how to include Samuel in our school, our community, our family, in every aspect of our lives. But Samuel is young, and including him may become more and more challenging. So I also made this film to learn from the experiences of others, like Alana Malfi, Nathaniel Oriana, Emily Huff, and Keith Jones, who can look back on the choices they made and their parents made, and how that affected their lives.
Keith Jones, disability rights activist, hip-hop artist.
You cannot box people up in a room 20 by 20, 8 hours a day, and then ship them off into the world and expect them to have social interaction skills. It's not gonna happen.
Keith uses his teeth in one arm to pull on a sweater.
Keith told me what it was like to grow up in the 1970s, when almost all kids with disabilities were completely segregated from the typical kids.
I asserted myself. I don't care about paste and popsicle sticks. I want math. Can I get some math? Something. I was different in the fact that I had a family that knew what it was and how it was to be in education.
Keith turns on a stereo with his toes.
They knew what they wanted for their child, because they also expected a lot of me. It's not all on the school. It's a two-sided equation.
Now Keith sits with two young men. He writes notes on a script with his toes.
Is inclusion easier for young kids like Samuel? What makes inclusion work well, and what makes it fail?
Words come into focus. Alana Malfi. Now Alana, a young woman with glasses, sits outside.
I'm nice and funny, but people don't understand that, you know?
Carol Ward, teacher.
We feel that they thought that inclusion was a good idea, so yes, let's go do inclusion.
Alana with a teacher.
I did not have any formal or informal training
Subtitles. Why can't I go on the computer?
to have these students in my class.
Alana crosses her arms.
How am I going to reach the valedictorian and reach Alana at the same time? I don't know how to do that. I'm not even sure I reached the middle of the road this year. I have cried many times about this year. I don't know what to do. I don't want another year like this year.
In a classroom, kids and a teacher hold hands in a circle.
Around the time Samuel started elementary school, I wondered, what does a school that is a model for inclusion look like? I met Marlene Oriana, a mother who is on the same search for her child.
In a classroom, a woman kneels by a painting easel with a boy. Words read, Nathaniel Oriana. Marlene Oriana, Nathaniel's mom.
He was withdrawn, very repetitive in all of his movements, very, very minimal speech. I didn't know anything about autism, and neither did my husband. I mean, it was like going on a roller coaster that never ended.
Nathaniel and his family visited the Haggerty School, a public elementary school in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
As soon as I walked in through the door with my husband, we said, this is it. It feels like home.
Joe Petner, principal, Haggerty School.
We really accept people for who they are and what they are.
At the end of a row of chairs, a boy shuffles his feet and raises his arms like he's dancing. Principal Petner.
Whether it's one's racial background, racial ethnic background, one's socioeconomic background, one's family constellation, one's abilities. Seeing diversity in its fullest sense as an important quality.
In class, Nathaniel raises his hand to answer a question.
We're having about 2 more minutes left.
I can't limit him. I can't do that. Everybody else in life is going to limit him. I can't do it.
And trying hard not to bump into each other.
Now in class, a woman motions with her hands.
Can all children be included? Are there times when a separate school really is the best place for a student? I got to know Emily Huff as I looked for answers to those questions.
Now the woman paints at an easel. Emily Huff, mental health advocate.
I am in a doctor's office and they're talking like they know every single thing about schizophrenia that is to be known. They don't. I'm like, you don't understand anything. When you have 7 people living in your head, then we can talk.
A tattoo on her forearm shows symbols around a flame.
I had this internal world of fighting and friendship and all the excitement, all the things I didn't have in this world. And I continued to live in that world more and more and be in the real world with my family less and less.
In a photo, Emily wears a cape. Now Emily paints.
The more they picked on me, the more walls I put up, the more I alienated myself. The more I said to myself, I don't want to be part of their world. It was a lot of pain, a lot of crying, a lot of uncertainty about who I was.
Anne Huff, Emily's mom.
So it was very clear. A doctor had warned a year ago that placement in a public school was putting her at great risk.
I just want people to see the friendly, clever, smart, whatever I am person, and not judge. People are different. Life isn't perfect. I just wish that one day I didn't have to hide who I am.
On a polished wood floor, Samuel slowly crawls forward on his belly to push a toy car. Betsy McNamara.
Now that I'm so close to a person with a disability, I can't believe that I was so blind to what people with disabilities in our community, in our country, in the world deal with every day. There was this huge civil rights issue, this huge amount of prejudice going on, and I never noticed it before.
Principal Petner.
I see the work of inclusion as probably the last frontier of desegregation.
Photos show police dog jumping at a black man.
If you read the brief from Brown versus Board of Ed, the The Board of Education argued that if we let blacks be integrated, that the next thing you know is that we'll be letting people with disabilities be integrated.
Samuel has changed the way I look at everyone around me. He has taught me not to prejudge anyone by how they talk, or whether they can talk, or how they move or see or hear. He has taught me patience. He has taught me not to make assumptions. Have you learned anything from him?
Dan and Isaiah.
Yeah, I guess.
What?
I learned it's possible to sit down, play t-ball and still hit really far at the same time.
In a backyard, Samuel swings a bat and hits a wiffle ball off a tee.
Samuel brought the disability rights movement into our home, and every day it brings new questions. As Samuel grows up, what can we do to make sure that people see that his cerebral palsy is just one part of who he is? Can we continue to fully include him as he goes to middle and high school? What about the times when inclusion has to take a back seat, as Samuel misses weeks of school to get through another health crisis? I don't know the answers to those questions right now, but I know that Samuel loves life. He loves to laugh and he loves the Red Sox. He wants to keep up with his brother and be a part of everything we do. He will teach a lot of people, which is good, because the world has a lot to learn.
Samuel wears a pilot's headset and grips a lever. He smiles at the camera. Fade to black.